you should know about the new evidence we have regarding vitamin B12. There's a book just came out by Roman Pollock, and the thing that we should know is that more people are deficient in B12 than we ever thought. So if the doctor has the least suspicion, he should do a test. Now, there are 2 tests that should be done on everybody that we suspect has B12 deficiency. The number 1 is methylmalonic acid. If that is elevated above 280 nanograms per liter, then you are deficient biochemically in vitamin B12. A lot of countries, they don't do that, but patients should continue to ask for it to be done. So eventually they will do it. The other test that lots of times they use is just your B12 level. But naturally, if you don't consume any B12, you're going to have low levels. But it doesn't mean you're deficient. But to be check the B12 level is another way. If it is under 400 nanograms per liter, you are probably deficient. Then what kind of a pill do you take, or an injection do you take? Actually, the injection bypasses the absorption of the B12, and that's for sure. You get it. But there's 2 methods by which vitamin B12 is absorbed. One is by the intrinsic factor, which is made in the stomach, and down in the ileum, the 3rd part of the small intestine, it combines with vitamin B12. And you have to have this combination for it to be absorbed. Okay, as you get older, you lose that ability to make that intrinsic factor. So above 50, there are many people who are deficient, even though they're getting a lot of it in their meat diet. However, at one meal, you can only absorb so much. So there have been people who are recommending that you get some, vegans get some fortified food every meal. But naturally, there will be some meals that forget to do that. But there's another method of absorption. That is by passive diffusion. So if you take any pill, 1% of it is absorbed by passive diffusion. Now, they fortified food with such low amounts, the 1% is negligible. Doesn't really matter. But if you take a 500 microgram pill or a 1,000 microgram pill, 1% is very important. That will take care of all your daily needs. So that's really what we recommend. Now, the total vegetarian who does not use any milk or eggs and meat, he should have his B12 level checked to see if he needs vitamin B12. And if he does, he should take the pill, 500 micrograms or 1,000 micrograms. Now, we know about how much he should take because they studied patients, gave them different doses, and at that dose of 500 micrograms or 1,000 micrograms, in 16 weeks, the B12 level in the blood was back to normal. So that's what we know about B12. It's not in any plant food. It's an animal product. There's been some rare kinds of seaweeds. They found a little bit, but nothing used commercially. So B12 is important to avoid getting sick. The pregnant woman must know that the baby does not get B12 when she's pregnant if she's not consuming B12 at the time. But B12 is stored in the liver. If there are people who are B12 deficient, they don't get deficient till they don't use milk for maybe 6 years, and a third of the people still are not deficient. That means they're operating off the stored B12 levels that are in the liver. So there is some storage, but for pregnant women, don't count on it. You have to be taking the supplement while you're pregnant. A food product may be labeled as having vitamin B12, but it doesn't ensure that it's active B12. It has to be cyanocobalamin or methylcobalamin to be active B12. So just because they say it has B12 and doesn't say the right thing, make sure it is the right thing, because B12 is not inactive, doesn't help you at all. Now, there are some people who think you must have methylcobalamin because in the blood, that's what we have. But the pill that has methylcobalamin is not the same as the kind in the bud. So that doesn't make any difference whether you take methylcobalamin or cyanocobalamin. It doesn't make any difference. Both of them are effective. But their body does make some vitamin B12. If you don't brush your teeth, the gunk, the bacteria in the teeth will form some B12. But it's such a minute amount, it's not even worth considering. The bowel, large bowel, makes lots of vitamin B12, but nothing's absorbed from the large bowel. But I think there was some evidence years ago that in the ileum, the small intestine, made a teeny bit. There are some Christians who said, well, God didn't have us born with a handful of pills. We don't need pills because God made us properly. That's true. Adam and Eve were made well, physiologically well. So they probably produced in their intestines all the vitamin B12 they need. But now, because of sin, because of degeneration of man, and not being healthful and everything, we are not making that B12. So we do need the pill. But I had a friend. He believed he shouldn't have to take any pills. And he was a total vegetarian, used no milk or eggs. He didn't have any source of B12, and he eventually died of B12 deficiency because he thought the vitamin pills were unnatural.